Hey there. Tonight we drift into the quiet breath of a city that never saw the morning come. A place of painted walls, warm bread, and silence caught in ash. This isn't a fire story. Not really. It's a memory. To Pompeii. To the people who didn't run. To a day that was never finished. So if you're winding down for the night, put your phone aside, put on your headphones, and get comfortable in bed. Dim the lights, take a deep breath, and if you enjoy calm little stories like this, slow, gentle journeys through the past, feel free to subscribe to the channel and gently tap that like button so the algorithm doesn't fall asleep too. Now, let the story come to you, softly, like the breath of a city frozen in time. The sun rose quietly over Pompeii, soft and golden, like a warm hand brushing the rooftops of a sleeping town. Shadows stretched across the stone streets. The baker lit his first fire of the day. The smell of fresh bread drifted into the morning air. A dog yawned near a fountain, and a little boy kicked a pebble as he followed his mother to the market. Pompeii was alive, but calm. No rushing, no panic. Just slow, gentle life. The city sat near the sea, and beyond it, rising tall and quiet, stood Mount Vesuvius. It had always been there, just a part of the background. No one feared it. No one even thought about it. Children laughed in courtyards. Merchants opened their stalls, brushing dust from their goods. Old men sipped wine beneath vine-covered porches. And the women? They watered the plants, folded linens, lit small lamps, all in peace. Time moved slowly here. Every sound was soft. Feet on stone, birds in the sky, the splash of water from fountains. It was the kind of city that didn't seem to notice the world changing around it. It lived in its own rhythm, quiet, steady, ancient. And it was beautiful. Pompeii was filled with colors, walls painted with stories, gardens blooming with herbs and flowers, and villas with open courtyards where light danced on marble. There were places to pray, places to eat, places to dream. Even at night, the city never truly slept. Candles flickered through open windows. Soft music played from somewhere far away, and lovers whispered beneath the stars. People lived slowly. They walked, not ran. They spoke, not shouted. They sat and watched the sky, without knowing how little time was left. No alarms, no signs big enough to stop the world. Just life. It was late summer in the year 79. The air was warm, the grapes were nearly ready for harvest, and everyone believed tomorrow would come, just like it always had. But tomorrow was waiting, quietly, on the edge of the sky. Mount Vesuvius, that peaceful giant in the distance, had not slept at all. And beneath its silence, something ancient had already begun to stir. The days stayed warm, but something in the air had changed. Birds flew differently. They rose quickly, circled low, then vanished toward the sea. The sky looked the same, but felt heavier, as if it too was waiting for something it could not name. People whispered about small things, walls that shook without reason, the water in fountains rippling when no one moved. Some said it was just the summer heat. Others said it was the gods. In the marketplace, a few clay pots had fallen and cracked, for no reason. A girl told her mother she saw dust falling from the ceiling, but the mother only smiled. "Just the breeze," she said softly, but there was no breeze. A priest in the temple of Apollo paused during prayer. He heard a low hum deep in the floor. Not loud, just enough to make his hands tremble. And still, he said nothing. Still, life went on. The bathhouses were full. Children splashed and played. Fruits and flowers were still sold in baskets woven by hand. The streets echoed with sandals on stone, and laughter under the sun. But beneath it all, there was a silence. A space between sounds, like the air was holding its breath. Animals felt it first. Dogs barked at nothing. Horses refused to move down certain roads. Cats vanished from courtyards they once ruled. At night the stars seemed dimmer, the moon thinner, the world somehow quieter. Mount Vesuvius stood still, just like always. But now people looked at it longer. They didn't know why. They just did. A few families left town quietly. No goodbyes. Just bags packed and carts rolled away in the early morning mist. But most stayed. They had homes here, shops, friends, memories. This was Pompeii. It had always been safe. Why should that change? A merchant touched the warm stone of his doorway and frowned. It vibrated softly and like a heartbeat. He didn't tell anyone. Across town, a young boy drew pictures in ash near a fountain. He pressed his ear to the ground and smiled. "It sounds like thunder," he whispered. But the sky was clear. The signs were there. Not loud, not screaming, but gentle. A slow warning, hidden in the corners of daily life. And still, the people slept. They lit candles. They kissed their children. They looked out at the mountain one last time and closed their windows. Pompeii would dream one more night. But far beneath the ground, the earth had already begun to move. It began with a sound, not loud, not sudden, but deep. A low, rolling growl like the earth was clearing its throat. People paused, looked up, waited. Then, the ground moved, gently at first, then harder. Clay pots tipped, lamps swung from their chains, birds scattered. The dogs barked once, then fell silent. And then came the roar. Mount Vesuvius opened, not like a door but like a wound. From its peak, a great cloud rose. Dark, wide, rising higher than anything the people had ever seen. It wasn't fire, not yet. It was ash, thick, gray, endless ash, falling like snow, but heavy, hot, sharp. The sun vanished. Day turned to dusk, then dusk to black. People ran. But where do you run when the sky is falling? Mothers held their children close. Fathers yelled for others to follow. Some screamed, some prayed, some just stood still. Shops were left open, meals unfinished, candles still burning. The streets were no longer clear. Ash filled the air. Breathing felt like swallowing dust. Many fled toward the sea. But even the sea looked afraid. Boats rocked in the rising waves. Some made it out. Most didn't. The ash kept falling. Soft but endless. Roofs collapsed. Walls cracked. Statues crumbled. People took shelter in cellars, in temples, in corners of their own homes. They waited, not knowing for what. The sound never stopped. The sky thundered with dust. And yet there was no lightning, no rain, just darkness and falling ash. Some still believed it would pass, that tomorrow would come again. But it didn't. Not the way they knew it. Late into the night, the mountain sent more. A second eruption. This time, hotter, faster, worse. A wave of burning gas and rock rushed down the slope. Not walking, not crawling, but running as fast as the wind. It reached the city in seconds. There was no time, no warning, just heat and silence. Bodies were frozen in their final breaths, hands shielding faces, arms wrapped around loved ones. A dog, chained by its collar, twisted toward the light that never came. Everything stopped. The fire didn't burn forever, but what it left behind didn't move. Pompeii, a city once full of music, laughter, footsteps, was now still. The ash, still warm, covered every street, every door, every dream. And as the mountain quieted, so did the world. Inside the homes of Pompeii, time stopped. A mother held her daughter close, both curled beneath a blanket that would never move again. Near the market, a man covered his face with his hands, his fingers still pressed to his eyes, his elbows tight to his chest. He was trying to hide from something that could not be escaped. In a kitchen, bread sat in the oven, half-baked, still warm when the world went cold. A dog lay twisted near a door, its leash pulled tight. It had tried to run, but the chain held, and so it waited, until waiting became stillness. One lover rested their head on the shoulder of another. Their hands were locked together, fingers laced. They stayed that way, as if frozen by the moment they last said, "I love you." The ash came not with speed, but with weight. It settled slowly, like soft dust, falling layer by layer until people could no longer move, no longer breathe, no longer cry out. And so, they simply stopped. Not all were afraid. Some curled into corners. Some kneeled in prayer. Some simply sat down, closed their eyes, and accepted the dark. One child was found with a small wooden toy in their hands. It looked like a little horse. The paint had faded, but it was still there, clutched tight, as if it could save them. These weren't statues. They weren't art. They were people, caught between a breath in and a breath out. They were real. Their final thoughts frozen with them. Their last words never heard. The city itself seemed to know. Doors stayed open. Curtains fluttered through broken windows. Chairs lay tipped over on stone floors. Life had been here, just moments before. A dining table still had plates. A glass jar held olives in oil. A comb rested beside a cracked mirror. Everything looked paused, not dead, just waiting for someone to return. But no one would. Years passed, then centuries. The ash became earth. The earth grew grass, and the city sank into memory. But beneath that quiet ground, the people remained. Not ghosts, not myths, just people. Sleeping, still, forever holding their final moment. Pompeii became a memory the world forgot. But the bodies, the faces, the hands still reaching out, they remembered. Even today, archaeologists uncover shapes in the ash, empty spaces where bodies once were, filled carefully with plaster to reveal their forms. They show the fear, the love, the silence. And though they are gone, they are not lost. They are still here, frozen, in the soft gray of that terrible night, breathing no more, but still speaking in the language of stillness. When it was over, there was no sound. The mountain had gone quiet. The sky, once full of ash and thunder, now stood still. No footsteps, no voices, no wind, just silence. The streets of Pompeii were covered in layers of ash, soft and gray. Roofs had collapsed, walls were cracked, temples broken, homes sealed shut. And underneath it all, life had stopped moving. No birds returned, no animals roamed. Even the sea, once so full of boats and laughter, stood still, like it was holding its breath. The air smelled of dust and stone, not smoke anymore, just earth, dry and quiet. No one came to search, no one came to help. Pompeii had vanished beneath its own skin. The world moved on. People in nearby cities whispered. They heard the sounds, saw the dark skies. But few truly understood what had happened. And even those who guessed did not return. It was too quiet, too still. In time, plants began to grow again. Grass, moss, small flowers, sprouting over rooftops that no one could see. The city slept, not just for a year or a lifetime, but for centuries. Rain fell, seasons changed, empires rose and fell. But Pompeii did not move. It remained where it was, tucked under its blanket of ash, untouched by the noise of the outside world. A city full of people who no longer breathed, but still remained. Their homes, their tools, their sandals, even their beds, all still there, hidden in the dust. It was a silence that no one dared to disturb, and so Pompeii became a name, and then just a shadow, a place in old stories, a warning maybe, or just a lost memory. But the silence never ended, because silence like that has weight, and under all that weight, the city waited, softly, quietly, forever. For nearly 1,700 years, Pompeii slept. Beneath the ground, beneath the trees and stones, beneath the silence, the city remained still. Then, one day, someone digging for water found a wall. Not a new wall, not rough and plain, but smooth, painted, Roman. At first no one believed it. A lost city? A city completely buried by time? But the digging continued, and what they found changed everything. Rooms, frescoes, mosaics, a bakery with ovens still holding blackened bread, a garden with statues still standing, though covered in dust, a street with stepping stones as if people might return at any moment. Then they found something else. Not buildings, not tools. People, shapes in the ash, empty spaces where bodies had been. Archaeologists filled those spaces with plaster, slowly, gently, and what rose from the ground were not bones, but forms. Real people, caught in the exact position they had fallen. A child curled into their mother, a man lying face down, his arms over his head, a woman sitting against a wall, her hands over her heart. They looked as if they were still there, as if they might breathe again at any moment. The world watched quietly. Pompeii wasn't just a story anymore. It was real, and it had survived, not in ruin, but in memory. A perfect pause in time, a whisper of the ancient world held beneath the earth like a secret. Today, people come from all over the world to walk through its streets, to see the colors on the walls, the shadows on the floor, to feel the quiet that still lingers in the air. No voices, no loud noises, just the soft footsteps of visitors walking through a city that forgot how to wake up. And maybe that's the magic of Pompeii. It wasn't destroyed. It wasn't erased. It was kept, wrapped in ash, preserved in silence, saved by stillness. And now every time we look at it, we see a moment, not lost, but waiting. Some stories don't fade. They don't blow away in the wind. They don't turn to dust. Some stories stay. Pompeii is one of them. Even after all these years, its silence still speaks. Not in words, but in stillness, in quiet rooms, in soft shadows on stone walls. It reminds us what it means to live, to lose, to remember. The people of Pompeii did not write long books. They didn't leave speeches or grand monuments. What they left were small things: a loaf of bread, a ring beside a bed, a child's toy, a set of footprints in the ash that led nowhere. And yet, these small things say everything. They say, we were here. We loved. We laughed. We lived. And now, we are still. But stillness is not emptiness. Not here. In Pompeii, every wall tells a story. Every room holds a breath that never left. It is a city made of moments, frozen, but never forgotten. Sometimes people ask why this story matters. Why a city that vanished still draws us in? The answer is simple. Because it could have been us. Because in their final moments, the people of Pompeii were just like we are now. Hoping, trying, loving, holding on. And somehow, through ash and time, they still reach out. To remind us, life is fragile, but beautiful. And even when it ends, it can be remembered. When the night is quiet, when the world feels slow, when we close our eyes and drift into sleep, Pompeii waits, not with fear, not with fire, but with stillness, soft, peaceful, patient, and under the stars, beneath the earth, its people rest, not gone, just silent, and their silence still holds the warmth of all they were. Maybe, somewhere deep beneath the earth, Pompeii is still breathing, not in fire, not in fear, just in memory. And maybe now, that memory lives inside you too. Some stories don't end. They just grow quieter until they become dreams. Pompeii is one of those stories. A city where people once laughed and walked and loved, now resting in stillness, wrapped in time. There's a kind of peace in the silence it left behind. Not empty, not gone, just quiet. And tonight, you felt that quiet. You walked those streets. You saw those faces. You heard nothing. And somehow that nothing said everything. Now you can rest too. Close your eyes. Let your breath slow down. Let your thoughts soften, like ash falling gently from the sky. You are safe here, and so are they. Pompeii doesn't need to wake up. It lives in soft stories like this one. And if you ever wonder what story should come next, you can tell me. Leave a comment when you're ready. I'll be here, digging through time, listening for whispers in the dust. But for now, good night, from Pompeii, and from me.